Breaking news is here. A move has been made. The Baltimore Ravens have finally addressed one of the biggest questions heading into training camp, signing veteran center Ethan Pocic on a one-year deal. And while this may not seem like the biggest or flashiest move for Baltimore, it could end up being the most important move for Baltimore, as we talked about earlier in today's video. EDC told us that Baltimore had been evaluating the center position and that his scouts had watched the entire league and a veteran addition was possible. Now, just a few hours later, the Ravens have found the exact player that they were looking for, an experienced NFL starter who can bring stability to the offensive line room and help protect Lamar Jackson. This move isn't simply just about adding depth. This can completely change the center competition going into 2026-27, and Baltimore now has a proven option as one of the most important positions on the field going into this upcoming season. But before we get into today's video of Ravens Digest, you guys are going to want to make sure to subscribe to Ravens Digest. We just hit 500 subscribers today. Thank you guys so much. We are now on the road to 1K. It is completely free, and we're providing Raven videos and updates and rumors every single day. You guys are not going to want to miss out on the content that we are providing you guys at all. Now, if we take a look at Ethan Pocic, the timing of this move is very interesting, and EDC basically told us that this move was coming. Going into training camp, one of the biggest question marks on the roster, as we've talked about in previous videos, is the center room for the Baltimore Ravens. They had to replace Tyler Linderbaum, one of the best centers in the NFL, and he was not just a blocker, as we know, and he was a very important piece towards the offensive line room and handling offensive and pre-snap communications. Before this move, Baltimore was expected to have a competition between Danny Pinter, Jovan Guan, and Corey Bullock. As EDC mentioned earlier in his interview, he trusts their O-line coaches and their veteran pieces. Remember what he said. Baltimore didn't panic. They waited for the right opportunity, and a couple hours later, they made the right move for Ethan Pocic. Now, Ethan Pocic is a pretty good and talented prospect coming out of Louisiana State University in 2017 as he was selected out of the second round going to the Seattle Seahawks. Coming out of college, he was known as one of the most versatile interior offensive linemen in his entire class, and he was also known as a player who could play multiple different positions, with him playing center, guard, and being an offensive line depth piece in multiple allocations. This versatility was one of his biggest strengths, and he spent most of his time early in his career as a Seattle Seahawk, as we talked about, before eventually signing with the Cleveland Browns, where he eventually learned and became their starting center. The reason this move stands out entirely is because Baltimore didn't just sign a player with experience. Pocic has played football at a very high level over the course of 9 seasons, and during 2022, he was one of the best centers in football. He helped anchor a Browns offensive line behind Nick Chubb, and he was known for having physicality, toughness, and a strong running game. This is the same identity that Baltimore wants to implicate going into the upcoming season, and a center of this nature can create very high movement in the run game, communicate those pass protection calls, play with consistency, and Pocic has experience in doing all of these things already at a very, very high level. Now, Baltimore's offense, as we know, puts a lot of responsibility on the center position to have a great communication and relationship system with Lamar Jackson. Pocic is not coming here to learn the position of a center. He has already been responsible for running an offensive line and can play offensive line at the highest order. As we know, replacing Tyler Linderbaum was never going to be so easy, as he was one of the best centers in football, and going into 2026-2027, he was pretty much the quarterback of the Baltimore offensive line. But replacing him with Pocic means that the communication, leadership, and consistency of Pocic cannot be simply reversed, but he can add something that Baltimore desperately needs. In terms of his NFL experience that he has already had, he has started in nearly 100 games in this entire league, and he has played against some of the most elite defensive linemen in the entire NFL. He understands the responsibility of being a player who can organize an offensive line, and for a team going into 2026-27 with such high Super Bowl expectations, the experience matters on the account of Pocic, and Pocic could be a perfect piece in the center room to help elevate the Baltimore Ravens offensive line. Now, the biggest question surrounding Ethan Pocic, and the one reason he was available this offseason, is his health. Pocic suffered an Achilles injury during the 2025 season, which simply ended his season, and Achilles injuries are difficult for offensive linemen because they rely on their ACL for explosion, balance, and lower body strength, which tearing your Achilles can affect this in multiple different ways. But Baltimore did their homework before making this move, and this is such a Ravens move and such an EDC move. The Baltimore Ravens have been known for taking calculated risk on talent and veterans, and they are getting a player who is returning from health. His experience can translate on the field instantly, and his ability stabilizes the offensive line. The best part about this scenario is that he is on a one-year deal. If he can return to the form that he had in Cleveland, Baltimore gets a major upgrade over the pieces that they could have acquired and who is currently in the offensive line room. And if not, if Pocic has seemingly that injury-prone season, they still have competition behind him to where they will be able to compete for a starting job and be completely beneficial to that staff. Now, Ethan Pocic specifically, as we've talked about, he is a very interesting move for the Baltimore Ravens. Before this signing, it seemed as if Danny Pinter had a legitimate opportunity to win the job, as we talked about earlier in today's video. And Jovan Guan and Corey Bullock were also competing. But now Pocic has the most experience, and now the question is this. Is Pocic going to be beaten out of a starting job? He is a veteran starter, has NFL production. He elevated running backs such as Nick Chubb for dominant 1,000-yard rushing seasons. And Pinter also has NFL experience, as we talked about, and is familiar with the system. But Pocic could be that piece that instantly goes in and is a beneficial piece towards Lamar Jackson and protecting Lamar Jackson at the highest degree. Now, why does this fit Lamar Jackson so well? But ultimately, the signing is always about protecting Lamar Jackson, and this is the most important thing on the roster. Lamar Jackson's offense depends on communication and timing with his offensive line, and the center is one of the biggest roles in making sure an offense operates correctly. A veteran center helps with nothing but more and effectively pre-snap reads, protection adjustments, identifying the blitzes, and keeping an offensive line organized. Baltimore is not heading into 2026 hoping that things work out. Baltimore is trying to win a championship and win the AFC. Adding Pocic gives multiple pieces and Lamar Jackson more stability to be able to be an effective player in the pocket and have more time to create big, long plays for his offensive staff. Now, as we know, EDC is always making plays and making moves that make sense for the Baltimore Ravens. With this, as we talked about earlier in today's video, EDC definitely planned this move, and the timing is the most important in his entire career. As we've talked about, Eric DeCosta explained how Baltimore builds its roster from scouts and waiting for opportunities, as well as value and following a blueprint. They completely waited and they added Ethan Pocic to be a beneficial piece and immediately changed the trajectory of the offensive line competition going into training camp and going into the 2026 season. At the end of the day, this is exactly how Baltimore operates, as we know. They don't always make the loudest moves, but they make moves that make sense. Ethan Pocic may not be a headline-grabbing signing that gets national attention, but for Baltimore, this could be the most important move of the offseason. The Ravens simply needed stability at center, and they found a veteran who can handle the job and has proven with 9 years of NFL experience that he can handle a center role, especially a starting position. EDC told us that we were evaluating all options, and now Baltimore has a center in their room that can compete. The biggest question entering training camp was Tyler Linderbaum, and now Ethan Pocic enters Baltimore as one of the best prospects and additions that could simply benefit the Cleveland Browns formerly and now the Baltimore Ravens offensive line room. But I want to hear from you guys. Do you believe that Ethan Pocic should immediately become the Week 1 starter, or should Baltimore continue to allow this training camp competition to ensue? Let me know in the comments what you guys are thinking. And if you guys enjoyed this breakdown, make sure you guys hit the like button, subscribe to Ravens Digest, and turn on notifications as we're posting daily Ravens breaking news videos, rumors, and analysis. The Baltimore Ravens just answered one of their biggest questions going into 2026, and now we will see if Ethan Pocic is a player that can help the Baltimore Ravens make a championship run. Thanks for watching Ravens Digest, and we'll see you on the next episode of Ravens Digest.